Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. We're live here at Adventure Unknown and have a special episode coming to you today. We're in partnership with Trueline Media Group, so they're the ones here at Adventure Unknown that make all of this stuff possible. So if you're in the St. Louis area looking to level up your podcasting game or other video content, social media content creation, these are the people that do it behind the scenes for us. Today, I'm joined by former NHL player and Blues alumni, Reed Lowe. Reed is also a member here up at Adventure Unknown, as someone I've gotten to know over the last few months, and I'm very excited to have this episode here today. So, Reed, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I love doing these podcasts and sitting down and having some fun. So I'm looking forward to what you got for me.
Yeah, man. So tell people a little bit, the whole Reed story. Yeah.
How long do we have?
As long as you want, man.
I don't even know where to start because it's funny because I was talking to my mom on the phone about 6 months ago, and we were just going through everything from a little kid. I was driving somewhere. I had a couple hours and she was just sitting there and we were going through, and I get to the end of it. And I'm like, Mom, I said, sometimes I feel like it's been a roller coaster. And she says, son, you aren't on a roller coaster. You are the roller coaster. So we've had some fun with that. But, for me, just born and raised in a little town in Saskatchewan called Moose Jaw. And it's not so little. It's little in the United States, St. Louis. It's 35,000 people, but it's the third largest city in Saskatchewan. So wow. Saskatchewan's a monstrous landmass that you could probably fit 5 or 6 states the size of Missouri, and then there's only 1 million people that live there. Wow. No roads halfway up. It's just lakes and forests and hunting and fishing and all kinds of cool stuff that you got to fly a pontoon plane in to get to. And then the bottom half is of Saskatchewan's the Golden Belt, best farmland in the world. So we produce a ton of wheat and other stuff. So I was not a farmer. I got on the outdoor rinks and I was a hockey player my whole life. And all I ever wanted to do was make the NHL. And somewhere along the line, that dream came true. And there wasn't a whole lot of people except my family that cheered me on or maybe had some belief as we started to get into it. But yeah, it was an interesting ride to say the least. I started really getting into my own hockey prowess when I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I started to get a little size. My coach moved me from defense up to forward. I got to play on like the best line, and I ended up scoring 60-some goals in 40 games and started to get those scouts looking for me on where I was and where I wasn't. And before I know it, I was a senior in high school, and I went and tried out for a junior team, and the coach asked me, before he asked me, in the game, I fought the 2 toughest guys on the team from the year before, and I scored 4 goals in the game. And I get called up into the coach's office, and he says, what was that? Like, can you do that again? And I'm like, score 4 goals in a game? He's like, no, beat the crap out of guys. I'm like, does it mean I'm going to make the team? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, coach, you point them out, I'll take them out. And so that was my first journey into being a tough guy and to being an enforcer. And so it was a fun ride through that couple of years. And then I played 2 years in junior in my hometown. And then I got drafted in the NHL, and I'm like, wow, this is maybe going to happen here, right? Mm-hmm. As I look back on it, I understand today that was where the road just began. Getting drafted is one thing, but actually putting the time and effort to grind it out through the minors. I played in the East Coast League, the American Hockey League. I played in the United League, and then finally to the NHL, and had a really fun career here in St. Louis. We were a really good team. Went to the conference finals my first year, and then all of us St. Louis fans, I did play 6 games for the Blackhawks. Beggars can't be choosy. I wanted to play for the Blues. They just didn't want me to play for them. So I had to go find something else. And then that was my last year. I realized that, after the lockout of 04-05, I'd already established myself and I had an NHL career. And here I was down at the bottom again, trying to make the NHL again. I was 31 years old and I'm kind of sick and tired of fighting. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just not playing hockey anymore. So literally July 12th, 2007, I was at this workout facility with Barrett Jackman, Jamal Mayers, and Bryce Salvador, and we're doing our workouts. We were there for 3.5 hours every morning, from weights to speed training to stabilization, everything. Had this guy training us, and I was doing an ab stand and just fell to the ground. I got up and I said, "See you guys, I'm out today." They're like, "All right, we'll see you tomorrow." I go, "No, you won't." They're like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I think I'm going to retire." They're like, "What?" Like, "You've got years left." I go, "Do I? I've already made the NHL once. I feel like I'm down at the bottom of that hill doing it again. I don't have near the initiative I had when I was 21. I said, "I think I'm just ready to go figure something else out." So I literally quit. I had a contract on the table in Philadelphia. Called the general manager, Paul Holmgren, told him that I wasn't going to make it, that I just decided. And he's like, "Man, I appreciate you and respect that decision." He said, "That's really cool of you to understand where your mindset's at and what you want to do with your life and how you've made this decision, how you've come to it.
Yeah.
He said, "It sounds like you're going to be good and you're not going to regret this." The next call was to my dad, and he was very supportive, like he always was during my hockey career. And then the hardest call I had to make was to my agent, Brad Devine. He was like an older brother to me. I was his second client. He was born and raised in Moose Jaw as well. And then he had moved up to Saskatoon, and he was in a financial advisor for a long time. And then he got kind of out of that and got into being a player agent and had a really, really successful career. But just a guy that was always there for me. He wasn't just a regular agent. He was a guy that, like, there's guys that got drafted that he would recruit in junior that ended up not doing anything. And a lot of agents just kind of push them off to the side. You know, Brad's helping these guys get into college. He's helping them get jobs. He's like, his job when he committed to you as a hockey player, if you didn't become a hockey player, he was going to do everything he could to put you in a good space after you were done your hockey career. So, then I retired and I went out and got a real job.
That is, you are the roller coaster.
We haven't even got to the real job stuff yet.
So yeah, as we'll get to the other stuff here in a second, but you know, you being able to have that lifelong dream. I think so many kids, obviously, like growing up, are like, "Man, I want to play." I remember for me back in the day, it's like, I want to get to the MLB, right? You know, and so what was it like? You know, you mentioned, hey, I had this dream, and then I'm able to do it, and I'm here, right? Like, walk us through kind of the roller coaster of emotions that was, and then how you acclimated to, hey, I had to do the grinding to get to actually fulfill the dream, not just get drafted.
You know, I have to speak on it kind of out of body, because when I was going through it, I was just going through it. Yeah. I had a bulletproof mind. I had been through so much. I would say like a lonely, little bit depressed kid from the age of 9 to like 15. I didn't have a lot of friends. I probably pushed a little bit in areas that were, you know, like my son does today, my little mini me. And I'm looking at him going, "Oh man, if you would just listen to me, I can save you so much heartache," right? And all I wanted really at the end of it was to be wanted and to have friends and to be included. And it didn't always work itself out at that age. And so whenever I did make that junior hockey team and I was able to do a role that not only nobody really wanted to do, but I was really good at it too. How? I have no idea. Like, how do you just become a good ice fighter? I didn't really train to be an ice fighter. Yeah. It just kind of came to me, you know? And it was an avenue that I knew that, like, cause I've never been in a street fight or a bar fight or anything in my life. And, you know, this was an opportunity for me to do something that nobody else really wanted to do or could do. But more than anything, it gave me a platform to have people like me. Yeah. My teammates needed me. They wanted me. And I hadn't had that feeling. And so when I encapsulated that feeling inside of me, it almost gave me the wind for the sail that I had up trying to go do that, because it was always about how I can be a great teammate. My dad told me, you know, there's only 3 things in life you truly have control over. And one is being a great teammate. The other one's being coachable, no matter what level you're at. You should be coachable even when there's people that are underneath you in the hierarchy of a business. You should be coachable through everything, and you should always be listening. And then the one part that is what we truly have control over is, are you willing to outwork the guy across from you? And so I never got in trouble if I had a bad game or just wasn't there or whatever. as long as I had those 3 components in there, we were good. If I stepped out of one of those 3 components, then he would say, hey, listen, like, you're not being a good teammate. Like, that's the kind of things my dad would say to me. And so as I started to move forward into that, I can look back on it now, like getting drafted. It was my birthday on the 21st, and the draft was in St. Louis on June 22nd. And, my agent calls me, he's like, you got drafted. I'm like, really? This is kind of crazy. Like, I'm like, what are we doing, And then, moving through that, I broke my tailbone the next training camp. So I ended up not being able to come to St. Louis for training camp because I went to my junior training camp first, and I broke my tailbone. I was out for 8 weeks. And so they just said, stay in Moose Jaw and play another year, which at the time I thought was the most devastating thing that could ever happen to me. But as I started to walk through it and look at it, I ended up getting a better signing bonus. I was more mature to turn pro, which I still probably wasn't as mature as I should have been. As my first year pro was a little bit of a roller coaster. I was in the East Coast League, and then I was back, and then I was back to the East Coast League. And so I was going up and down from the minors to the minors, but I always took it. And my dad came down at Christmas that first year pro, and I was probably partying a little bit more. These are East Coast Leaguer guys. Like, we were partying after every game. Not that we didn't have fun at the other levels, but my dad came down and talked to me. He's like, do you have your priorities straight today? He said, I've been down here for a week and a half with you, and I haven't seen you in the gym once, but I've seen you in the bar every day. So where are you at? What are you going to do? Are you wanting to get to that next level, or are you just good with this one entry level contract and see what happens after that? And I was like, man. So the player coach there, Kevin McDonald, took me under his wing, and we just started working out every day after practice. We stayed on the ice after practice and worked on some skating stuff and some shooting stuff. And that really helped me because through the back half, January and February, I started playing better and I started being better. And so I ended up getting called up to the American Hockey League in Worcester, Massachusetts, the home of Jim Soupy Campbell. And I ended up playing in the playoffs and everything, and came back the next year and played 2 more years in the minors, and then, made the NHL. It's crazy how it happened because I needed a contract, and the year before, so I played 3 years in the minors, and if my 4th year, if I didn't play 80 games, then I was going to be an unrestricted free agent. And so I just took they have to give me a qualifying offer, so I just took this 1-year deal and, rolled the dice a little bit. It had good NHL salary, terrible minor league salary, but I said, I figured I was going to have to clear waivers at some point in time. So I'm going to roll the dice a little bit. And my agent ended up negotiating a 3-week. So in the NHL, you have a 1-way contract where you just have your NHL salary. And then you have a 2-way contract where you have your NHL salary, and then literally like 10% of what your NHL salary is that you make in a minors. And so I signed I'd never played a game in the NHL, and I signed a 3-year contract, and all the money was NHL guaranteed. Wow. And because they had just not done it to Tyson Nash the year before, and then Nasher had an awesome year, and he should have got paid, $500, $600, $700, but he ended up getting like $9, $1 million, $1 million one, because he was going to be unrestricted, right? And so listen, let's not do that with Losey. Where he's going to come in here and he's going to fight, he's going to have success, and there's going to be people that are going to want him. So let's not do this. And so I ended up doing that, and I had a really good first season. Got hurt a couple times, but fought a ton, and earned my respect at the National Hockey League level for being a high-end, tough guy. And again, no idea. Like, most people meet me, they're like, "Man, I just don't see this. I can't imagine you punching me in the face." I'm like, "Trust me, you should never have to worry about that." But I did a speaking engagement a couple days ago, and we were talking about it. And I just said that I had to create, when I was 17 years old, I had to create this alter ego inside of me.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was it like that alter ego?
Yeah. So it's just like I had to be able to be sitting laughing on the bench, and then all of a sudden something happened out there, and the police hat came on, and I flipped the switch, and I did a couple screws in my helmet and said, "You got to pay the piper now, bud." And, more than that too, I would go and look for it, especially at the beginning of the season, just because I wanted my teammates to feel like they were protected. I wanted them to know, I wanted the other team to know that I was on the bench, and it was almost a mental thing as it was anything. Like, I want you to be scared of me. And if you're scared of me, you're going to be scared to do things to my teammates. And so that's the reputation that I wanted to hold, so that everybody else would be safer. And hopefully I wouldn't have to fight. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And I did a ton of it, but that was it for me. And You know, the one tough part that I look back in hindsight is you never think it's going to end.
Yeah.
And I was 28, 29 years old. Like I was one of the highest paid fourth line tough guys in the league. And we had a lockout and I kind of got out of shape. And I was like, you couldn't, I think it was like 250 games. If you played 250 games in the NHL, you weren't allowed to go down and play in the American Hockey League during the lockout. I could have went and played in the East Coast League, but at the time I was like, if I go to the coast, these guys are just going to chase me around. And, you know, I just wasn't comfortable with that. And I just probably got in my head, maybe thought I was a little cooler than I really was. Because if I would look at it now, if I would have went down to the coast, I probably would have been able to play on the top line and gotten some ice time as well. And they would have had some other guys, would have had to fight here and there. Yeah. But I think I could have put myself in a situation to get some ice time and play and improve my skills instead of sit around and be depressed because we weren't playing hockey over money. You know what I mean? And it ended up, you know, the deal the players could have struck at the beginning of the next season after we lost an entire season to lockout, we could have made the deal that we ended up making. So in essence, we lost that one. And so, but that kind of is what it is. And that was the beginning of the end. I came back to camp the next year. I wasn't in the greatest shape. My kitchen wasn't happy with me. They put me on waivers. I got sent to the minors. I was a healthy scratch my first game in the minors. And my second game, I broke my jaw completely in half and went through 4 months of rehab. And that was probably the worst injury that I ever sustained in my life. It was pretty gruesome. You know, the doctor goes like this and tweaks my bone and literally this bone pops out. And with my peripheral vision, I'm looking down. I'm like, okay, that's my chin. What the? So I popped it back in. Emergency surgery. Like if you do a hairline fracture your jaw, they can just get you in a couple days. But I needed surgery. I needed reconstructive surgery. It was pretty crazy injury. So that was really the beginning of the end for me. Like, once somebody punches you in the face so hard they break it, I don't know if I really want to do this again. And so I ended up going to the minors at the end of that year, because I didn't come back until probably February, and went to the minors, and then I signed with Chicago, and I did. My brother-in-law talked me into doing one more. He's like, you got one more in you. Go back and see what you can do. And he's like, I believe in you. And so I jumped on the wagon and I went and I signed with the Blackhawks and I made the team and had a really good fight against Derek Bugart, who was probably the toughest guy in the league. Stunned him pretty good. Actually almost knocked him over in the first 10 seconds of the fight. And if I would have done that, it would have been bedlam, because he would have hunted me down the rest of that game and every game after that. But yeah, no, it was, you know, that part is, like I said, it's the way I look back and feel on it and the way that it was just happened. Like they're two totally different emotions and feelings. And I don't live life with a lot of regret. But if there's one thing I wish I would have done is, and we see the kids do it today in today's game, and it just wasn't our culture back then. But I wish that after the practice was over, I went and spent an hour and 15 minutes in the gym just doing something, and then gone and spent another hour sitting with Jamie Compton, who is our video coach, not even doing anything, just watching what he's doing and asking questions. And I was always a student of the game, but really trying to be the best, knowing that I didn't have the skill level. I always worked on my skating and all of the shooting. I was before practice, after practice. I always worked really hard, but there was another level there, and I didn't have anything going on except for lunch and a nap. And I could have done that at 3:00, you know? So there's one thing I wish I would have done a little differently is how I treated myself after practice and what my ritual and habits were then. So we don't lose, we win or we learn. And so I just try and remember that then and try and have those good habits now, not have that same guy.
No, that's incredible. And you know, you always look at it from a professional, like as a fan, right? You look at the professional athletes and you don't see and hear those things, right? So you're like, man, it looks like they're doing it so easy out there. It looks like they're on top of the world. And then you're like, man, like behind the scenes, right? There's a whole other story. So it's always super intriguing to, you know, see it from the other side.
Yeah. And I was a little bit of a black sheep, like, you know, that personality or that personality trait that I had that drove people crazy is the same personality trait that made me successful as an enforcer. Right? And I had no idea. And I tell my 14-year-old all the time, like, son, if you just learn to cap this a little bit, but keep it, because you're going to need that energy. You're going to need that passion, that will, and get out of my way or I'm going to hurt you, and, 20 years after hockey, you have to, when you build that alter ego, at some point in time, it will break you as a hockey player and as a human. And so then there's that process afterwards of trying to, almost wake up and you snap out of it and you're like, this isn't it anymore. And you kind of walk through a different journey in a different world. But I wouldn't change anything the way it happened. Life's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I'm very blessed. I have a great life today with healthy children and a good life and a good work and a good job. And I get to be a part of my community and do a lot of community stuff. So was there some things that would have been a little bit better? Yeah, but that's not how it works. That's not how the cookie crumbled. So just take what you got and make it happen. But hockey was everything to me. Funny story. I told this the other day. I'll tell it to you now too. So I'm 16 years old and school wasn't my greatest thing. I wasn't really interested. I thought it was stupid.
Yeah.
And it was. And so I'm 16 years old. I think I failed grade 10 algebra twice already. And I was in the third time, or maybe I failed it once. It was in my second time. I don't know. I took the class a bunch. I could almost teach it. I just couldn't pass it. And Martin Holzer, Mr. Holzer, was my algebra teacher, and he liked me. And he was an athletics coach. He was a basketball and volleyball, and he did the outdoor ed and took everyone on the camping trip and all that, canoe trips and all that kind of stuff. And so we get to class one morning, and he's like, "All right, guys, hope you guys did your 7 questions." He's like, "I'm going to pick 7 kids, and you guys are going to come break the problem down on the board." And I was first. "Reed, why don't you come on up?" I'm like, and I was always honest. I'm like, "Mr. Holzer, I apologize. I didn't get my work done last night." "Oh yeah, why didn't you get your work done last night?" I said, "Well, I said I was busy playing hockey. We had a playoff game. And when I got home, I was tired. And so I just had a shower and went to bed." He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, what's hockey going to do for you? Like, if you don't have your education," he's like, "I know you're a pretty good hockey player." He's like, "But you're not even on the AAA team." He's like, "What? You don't think you should put a little effort in your school?" And I said, "I'm not really worried about where I'm at today." I said, "I'm going to make the NHL." Because I was that guy, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're going to make the NHL." He said, "Okay." Well, he said, "Class, we're going to put today on hold, and we're going to move these questions to tomorrow. And today I'm going to bring Reed up here, and we're going to dive into what his chances of actually making the NHL are, so that maybe he can take his school a little bit." Well, it came down to like 0.00001 in 5 million. I don't know what the number was, but the odds were not stacked in my favor, right? Yeah. And so I go get through it all, and I just take the browbeating. And at the end of it, I go, he's like, "Well, did you learn anything?" I said, "No, not really." I said, "Because it doesn't really matter what you or anybody else says. I'm going to make the NHL." I said, there's nothing that's going to get in my way." He's like, "Huh." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "I tell you what." He was not happy with me at this time, right? He's like, "If you ever make the NHL, I will personally track you down and find you and give you a personal apology." I'm like, "Whatever." I said, "You don't need your apology. I don't need your cheering. I don't need nothing. Like, we're good. I got me. I'm ready to roll." Fast forward 8 years, I'm in my first season in the NHL. We're just getting ready to we're on the road and we're playing in Edmonton. It's going to be my 10th game in the NHL. I have a ton of family and friends that are coming up from Moose Jaw. It's about an 8-hour drive. And so at the time I had one of those like little black Nokias. It had like the little thing on it. And like you had to, if you wanted to text, you had to go and wanted C, you had to hit A, B, C. It was the most kids today, like they have no idea how bad it was. And so I'm looking at it, it's a 306 number, Saskatchewan number. Like, man, I better take this, And I pick it up and I'm like, "Hello." He's like, "Reed." I'm like, "Yeah, this is Reed." He said, "It's your grade 10 algebra teacher, Martin Holzer." I go, no recollection. Not this is so buried in my brain. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I just wanted to, so first off," I said, "How'd you get my number?"
Yeah.
"How'd you get my number, bro?" He's like, I went down to your dad's office. My dad sold real estate forever there. He's like, "I went down to your dad's office and I told him the story of what happened back in high school." And he said, "I asked if I could add your number because my wife's been giving me crap for the last 3 weeks as we've been watching your hockey games." And he was right.
Oh my God.
So he called me up and he was like,
Cool.
"Hey man, just wanted to, I'm not going to keep much of your time. I know you're just getting into Edmonton." He's like, "But I had to give you a call and I had to tell you, you won, you did it, you proved me wrong. And I'm really excited that you did." He's like, "You're the talk of the town right now. Everyone's proud of you and we just wish you all the best." And I'm just sitting here going like, the hell just happened, right?
Yeah.
So I go in.
Wow.
I think that night nobody's going out, so I ordered room service, and I always had my own hotel room because I snored so bad, and nobody wanted to room with me, and so. Next morning, we come to the dressing room for pregame skate, and I'm telling the boys this story, and Al McInnes is like, brings up the Billy Madison, Steve Buscemi, where he like crosses the guy's little name off the list of people to kill and puts lipstick on his face. He's like, was that you last night in your hotel room, Losey? I said, no, but it was good because I went back and I do golf tournaments every year while I was in the NHL and donate money back to youth athletics.
Yeah.
The gymnastics needed mats or football needed jerseys or whatever. I'd raise $100,000, and my dad and my sister would just kind of piecemeal it out to whoever needed whatever they needed. And so some of these coaches that I had in high school football, and I quit high school football, and my coach Adams wasn't very happy with me either. But to be able to bring these guys back and say, hey, listen, like you guys weren't a part of my hockey career, but you guys were a part of my life.
Yeah.
And you guys had instilled things in me as just coaches on how to do it right. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of good coaches, especially in high school. Played as many high school sports as I could. I was on the track team and javelin, and I was a senior in high school. I came back after my year of junior hockey, and I finished school off that year with the kids, and I was on the track team, and they needed somebody to run the 110-meter hurdles, and they didn't have anybody. And Coach Green comes to me, he's like, hey, I know you're not a runner, but what do you think? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I was training to run the hurdles, and in the city finals, like I literally knocked every single one of those hurdles down on the way. I literally just started running through them, It's like, get me out of here. It's a nightmare. But yeah, very fortunate back home to have a lot of people that had a hand in this, because when somebody does something, like when you accomplish what I accomplished, there's a lot that has to take place that is your inner mental, physical grind, beatings. I don't want to do this, but I have to find a way to push myself through. But there's a lot of people that have to be a part of that in order for you to have the success that I was fortunate enough to have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So talk to us about that retirement post-hockey. Take us on that journey.
So as I was saying before, July 12th, I decided to not play the game anymore. Angry at the game, not very accountable for the fact that I was getting a little older, and the glasses of wine needed to be less, and the body treatment needed to be better. I just always did, I always had a glass of wine with dinner or whatever. And sometimes I think that as you turn 30 in professional sports, you have to up your game for your body, because the difference between a 21-year-old hockey player and a 31-year-old hockey player is a lot, especially when you got 250 fights in those 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, so for me, it was like, it took me about a year and a half, and then Bruce Affleck, who was the president of our Blues alumni at the time, called me up, and he's like, hey, Losey, haven't seen you around. I got some extra tickets to the Penguins game tonight. Why don't you come down and watch the game with the guys? Sidney Crosby's going to be in town. And I was like, you know what? Cool. So I took my brother-in-law, my father-in-law, and we went to the Blues game. And that moment was the moment that I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, stop being selfish. You could have done differently in your hockey career. Stop blaming the NHL. Stop blaming the coach. Stop blaming all these other people. This was you and only you that has you in this situation, which again, I wasn't upset. I started selling real estate right off the bat because that's what my dad did forever. And I ended up getting a job. I retired in July, and as soon as I got back, I got into real estate, took my real estate license, got it, and I was working for Remax Gold. And then I got a lead through one of my buddies, Bryce Henry, who's works with Budrovich Contracting, big crane company in town. And he said that the Ritchie brothers were looking for a permanent facility. So I went out and I got kind of like was their real estate agent. And so I started meeting the sales rep, and then he started taking a liking to me. And then I met the regional sales manager, and then the sale in October came around, and the senior VP and the VP were there. And then I had to take those guys out. And this was like a crossroads for me in understanding that ownership is everything in life. I didn't really adapt the I don't lose, I win, or I learn until about 2 years ago. And it's helped my mindset tremendously. But I was always somebody that was like, I couldn't lie. I was not a good liar. Like if I were to tell you a lie, you'd look at my face and go, "You're lying. Why are you lying to me?" It's all over your face, Reed. Like I just never could. So I was always just like, eat it. And so I take the senior vice president and the vice president of Ritchie Brothers out to look at a property, and over in Illinois, which I hadn't spent any time over in Illinois, but Route 3 crosses 255 twice. Once in Columbia, and the other one in Dupo. And so there's 2 parcels of land that are almost identical. The only difference between those 2 parcels of land is the one in Columbia doesn't have a for sale sign in it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do you guys think? And the senior vice president's in the back and he's looking at the map and he's looking at the picture and he's looking around. He's like, well, Reed, I don't think this is the property. And like, my throat swells up. I'm like, what do you mean? There, Nick. Turn around and grab the map, and I'm like looking at the map, and then I see. I'm like, oh boys! I said, I think I screwed this up. I said, my apologies. I said, Route 3's got 2 entrances. I know where we're going now. Do you guys want to go run there before we go back? Take it back. Yeah, I want to go have a look at it. So we go look at it, start driving back. We got a 45-minute drive all the way back to Festus, Missouri, because that's where the Ritchie Brothers sales site was then. And Ritchie Brothers is the world's largest industrial and construction auction company, monster, publicly traded. Everything sells on reserve. Like it was a awesome 9 years to work with them and to grow and learn what I did about equipment and everything that came with it. But I'm driving back and I'm like, man, like, they're looking for $1 million, $2 million piece of property. Like this is going to be my first big. I'm going to land a whale right off the bat. Right, I've been selling real estate for 3 months, not even, And I'm like, I'm getting fired. They're firing me. I am a complete. How did you miss that? Just browbeat myself, and they're doing their talking and whatever else, and I'm just quiet. Like I might as well have been sitting on the floorboard. I felt like an absolute heel. Yeah. So we get back to Festus, and there's this place called the Tanglefoot that we always used to go eat at. It's not there anymore. And so we went in and we eat at the Tanglefoot, and they're like, come back to hang out with our customers. We want to get to know you a little bit better. I'm like, well, I'm not going to get fired. So I'm there again at 7:00 in the morning before the sale, after their sales meeting, and I'm meeting with everybody. And I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to come back, have some beers after, but I'm going to go look in Illinois for some more land for you guys. And so I go out there, and then the next day, Nick asked me if I could meet him at the gas station at 6:00 in the morning. And it's October. It's dark at 6:00 in the morning. I'm like, okay. Didn't really know why he wanted to go look at real estate at 6 in the morning, but if 6 in the morning is when you want to do it, let's go. Little did I know that he wanted to see if I could get up and be there somewhere at 6 in the morning, because when we did our sales, we had to be there at 6:00 in the morning. And I didn't even know that I was being interviewed. I had no idea. And so literally that day we go look at some properties, and we end up finding the property that we ended up purchasing. And on the way back, he's like, hey, what do you think about coming and working for Ritchie Brothers? And I'm like, I think you guys, this is super cool, but I have no sales experience. I have no equipment knowledge. I don't have an education. Like I'm baffled right now at why you think I'm a guy you need. I just showed you the wrong property. Like, are you sure? You've been drinking this morning. What's going on right now, right? And Nick Nicholson, still to this day, is one of my really good friends. And he lives down in Houston. And he's like, no, that's not how I see it all, Reed. He said, I see a guy that's passionate. I see a guy that has the ability to build relationships, because you've walked through every single person in this region, including myself, and built a relationship. And these guys all want to work with you. He's like, as far as the equipment knowledge, he's like, I'm not really worried about that, because we look at it like we're getting you green, and we don't have to untrain any bad habits that a lot of the dealers and stuff instill. Like, don't take it to auction. It's a joke, that kind of stuff. And then he said, the last one is, please don't ever underestimate yourself and your sales skills ever again. He's like, you sold your way to the highest level of hockey. He's like, you got more sales skills than you think you do. I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, when do I start? He's like, well, you gotta go to Vancouver, and you gotta go meet some of the executive team. I met with the CEO, I met with the vice president, the president, I met with some of the senior VPs of marketing, and we did a lot of appraisals and equipment values and stuff like that. So I got to go up there and do that, and ended up getting the job. And the president of Ritchie Brothers was not in favor of hiring me. He's like, what are you guys doing? He's like, I know we like to look outside the box, but this guy's an ex-NHL tough guy. Are you sure this is the guy that we should hire? I don't think so. So their goal for me was to do $3 million in gross auction proceeds. I ended up doing $14 million that year. And he sent me a letter the next year that said, "You did it, kid. I wasn't on your team, but I'm on Team Reed now." So it was the awesome culture. I'm so blessed because there's so many guys that get out of the game of hockey and they have troubles redefining themselves. And it's a problem. Like we probably had at least 25 or 30 guys commit suicide in the last 7 years just because they don't know where to go and they don't have anywhere to be. And there's just this emptiness of you don't have anybody depending on you. You're at least you don't see anybody that's depending on you, right? You're blinded to what you don't have anymore instead of the gratitude of what you do have, right? Yeah. And I was very fortunate with Ritchie Brothers because they welcomed me in with open arms. I learned a ton. I know more about construction equipment than you could possibly believe. And I drive down, all the time with my girlfriend in the car and like almost driving off the road, looking at that dozer over there and whatever, right? Like I'm just infatuated with it. I loved my customers. I loved the equipment. We'd have $30 million worth of industrial and construction equipment and combines and everything under the sun to a pile of crap or a bucket or everything. We had like $30 million and we would sell it all in that day on reserve. And it's 6 o'clock in the morning and you're outside and coffee and the lights are on. Like we've got light standards on all over. Customers are around, the diesel fumes going everywhere. Like, Ritchie Brothers, like it was so much fun. And then it did come to an end. I got an opportunity to go work at the Cat dealer here in St. Louis, right over here. And I managed their used equipment department for 3 years, which is another awesome experience. And somewhere in all of this, I got up on stage one time and did an auction. And everyone's like, "Dude, what was that?" I'm like, "I don't know. What was that?" And when I was at Ritchie Brothers, I wasn't an auctioneer. I was a sales rep, but I had to catch the bids. That's where I learned kind of the cadence. I got up on stage, it happened. And, 12 years later, I do 65 auctions a year with all different types of charities and fundraising initiatives across the greater St. Louis area. I travel to Cleveland. I travel down to Houston a little bit, over to KC once in a while, but it's been crazy and it's been fun. But yeah, and got an opportunity before I really got full-time into my Reed Low 34 events really started kind of hardcore after COVID. It was there before, but I was working with the Blues alumni. They did 4 events a year. So I put all those events on. I managed the box. Yep. And I had to be at the game every single night. So there was a lot of Saturdays that I couldn't do or Fridays that I couldn't go do auctions because I already had responsibility with the Blues alumni being their director. So, it was a super fun doing that as well. I got to put on some really cool stuff. I got to be a part of the All-Star game. We had an All-Star game weekend here in St. Louis, and I managed all the events that we did for that. It was phenomenal. Had a blast. Obviously we got the Stanley Cup. I was in charge of the alumni box for that too. Me and our coordinator Beth Riccardi. From a work world standpoint, I've been so blessed because there's so many guys that get out of the game. None of us really take any money away unless you have some monster career years, right? It doesn't, you make $500,000 a year and you're hanging out with guys that make $5 million a year and you're trying to go to dinners and hang out and buy cars and do all that. That shit evaporates real quick. It doesn't take long to spend money. Yep. And especially when you're living with guys that are in that 1% of the world type of earnings. Yeah. Right? So when I got out of hockey, I had a couple bucks saved away, but it's full-time work for Reed for the foreseeable future. And I got myself built up again. And then I happened to be in the event business during COVID. So I didn't get a paycheck for 2 years and the government wouldn't give me any money because I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm like, oh my God, this could not be worse. So there was a grind going through that, but for the most part, it's been pretty good.
Yeah. I think, and I look at the transition, whether it's the transition from one industry to another, or you are working a job and then you become an entrepreneur, or you're an entrepreneur and then you go get a job, very similar in some instances to like that of a professional sports career where you have to redefine yourself. Yeah. And I think so many people struggle with that because they lose what drove them for so long. And I think a lot of athletes struggle with it in college, right? So I played college soccer and it was like, man, I still remember, back in 2013, the last soccer game ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I spent, since I was 5 years old playing this game, and now I'm never going to play a competitive game again. Now I got to figure all this stuff out. So it happens in different phases. And I'm glad you shared that part of it, because I think so many people, they're like, hey, it's too late to start over.
Never.
Sometimes I don't know. It's like you can always be reinventing yourself. So I would love to hear some, input or some motivation around like, hey, it's never too late to start over. You can always find your thing.
Yeah, I think that if you kind of look at what I've done and where it's gone, I always have been open to what's in front of me and what's next when it comes to life.
Yep.
It's very short. Enjoy the days. I went through a really, really tough time. I went through a horrific divorce right as I was leaving Ritchie Brothers and kind of moving into the Fabic Cat and then to the Blues Alumni. And, the divorce, trying to balance children in a divorce. My ex and I were on complete opposite sides of the world. The hatred was so intense. It spilled over onto our families. And again, I can look back and regret and rewind it and try and do all those different types of things. But, how do you get to yourself to a point of really truly understanding that when I retired from the game of hockey, I was ready. And so the transition for me, I didn't feel like I had something taken away. Like I didn't want to fight anybody anymore. And that's the role, the only role that I had at the hockey level. And that was the reputation that I had at the hockey level. So when I left that, I left it. And then I was just selling real estate. And then this opportunity came along. And so I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm going to give it the 24 hours or the 48 hours and look at it and ask all the questions that I possibly can and then go for it. And then another opportunity come. And it just happened to be that the Ritchie Brothers world, the culture that it was kind of shifting into more corporate instead of more big company, small company mindset.
Sure.
As far as team and hanging out and doing the things that we did. They started to eliminate some of that fun that we were able to have before. And so I was ready to move into Fabic Cat. When I got to Fabic Cat, I felt like I was a little bit of an outsider, even though people thought it was cool because I played for the Blues and all that kind of stuff. The Cat Inc. world is very, I don't know what the word is, but it's like kids come out of college, they get a job at Cat Inc. and then they disperse to the dealers. And it's not incestuous, but it's like very like, we're a boys club. And I'm this guy at 38 years old, 40 years old, whatever it was, coming into this new company and trying to establish myself. And I'm a big personality.
Yeah.
And so I think that whenever my first VP left and I had the new VP, he had a different image of what the used equipment sales manager's job was than my old boss. And so we ran into a little bit of an issue there. And so end of the day, I was doing my auctions. I was successful. I was making good money and Terry Ake moved away. So I was like, hey, here's another opportunity. And change is going to happen. Whether you enjoy it and you like it or not, it's coming.
Yep.
So you better embrace it and you better understand it. And you better learn it and you better love it. Or else you're just going to live in misery. And as I started to go through my divorce, that was really the toughest thing that I ever really went through. A broken jaw is really bad, but I came from a broken home. And I swore to myself that I would never put my children through that. And as I look on the backside of it, not only did I do that, but I probably was worse than my kids had to live through. And that was something that I really struggled to get past. Not only because my ex blamed everything on me and very little accountability from her standpoint. And all that did was get me angry. And so this beast that used to get his release on the ice didn't have anywhere to go with it. And so it started just to eat me alive. And I started getting more angry and more angry and more angry. And really the transition for me happened about 5 years ago. I was trying to not be angry anymore. And I was never a religious person. Like my dad was a pastor when I was a kid, but didn't last but till I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old. And then we were completely out of the church and didn't even talk about church, never prayed, didn't talk about Jesus, didn't talk about nothing. And that was what we were. So no big deal, right? And then as I started to really deteriorate internally, mentally, like bad, like not wanting to be around, that kind of stuff. And I was just vicious to anybody. Like, dude, you say something to me and like, I'm not a very nice, friendly face when I'm angry. I don't get angry anymore, which I'm so thankful for. But that stopped for me. It was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. My oldest son, Connor, was probably 18 years old at the time. My another boy that hit mine. He's not really part of the story, but I have they were like 9-year-old twins at the time, boy, girl. And Connor is losing his mind on Ollie. And I stand up, I pause for a second, and I sit down, and I got my hands on my knees here, and I'm like, that's me. That is me upstairs. That's not Connor. It's me. So I walk upstairs, I walk around the corner, and I look at Connor, and he looks at me, and he's like, oh boy, the boss is here. This isn't going to be good. I'm going to get one, right? And I said, come over. Comes over here, and Ollie's just sitting there. Like, Ollie was such a little shit disturber, but he's just like, and he laughs at everything, and it drives me absolutely crazy still to this day. And he's just biting his cheek and his lip and his tongue, and I'm not even paying attention to Ollie. And I give Connor a hug, and I say, hey, I said, this isn't who we are. This isn't how we're going to treat people. I've taught you how to do this, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life getting myself to a place of peace and grace so that I can show you how we treat people. And he didn't really remember that until I did my first testimony at the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I told that story, and he's like, I don't really remember it like that. It wasn't that big a deal for me. I'm like, it was a life-changing moment for me, because I'd come to the fruition that through all of the everything, the successes and the wins and the losses, is that I had somewhere in all of this, I'd lost myself. And I didn't know where to go. And so I cried and I cried and I cried, and I just couldn't stop crying. And I couldn't forgive myself. I just could not forgive myself for the way that I was treating the foremost beautiful, precious things on this earth. Nothing physical. I'm not beating anybody up or beating my children or anything, but snapping and flying off the handle and name calling, and just like, I would literally go blind. And then I'd wake up and I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, I had an issue. And so I always had a tremendous love for Jesus, not for religion and not for any of the other crap that comes with it, but just him, because he's healer, he's forgiving, he's nice, even when you're not nice. And like, whether people want to believe in the story or not the story of Jesus is he's like the most greatest person on earth that didn't sin and didn't do anything bad, right? All he did was walk around and love people and heal people. And I was like, if I could just be a little bit more like him and a little less like me. And so I went on this journey, and December 7th, 2020, it was 3 weeks after that, and I was as suicidal as it gets. I didn't want to be here anymore. I hated myself. I couldn't forgive myself. I just couldn't get past this. I couldn't come over this. For the first time in my life, I could not overcome something on my own. And so I just prayed to him. I said, I've always admired you, and I've never really talked to you or given you much time. I said, but if you could show me a sign this one time, I said, or just boot me out of here one way or the other. Something's got to happen, because I can't do this anymore. Just crying myself to sleep every night, 4 or 5 bottles of wine. I couldn't even get to sleep if I wasn't completely hammered. Wake up the next morning, stained teeth, late for work. Like, it was horrific. And in all of this, it was the midst of COVID. So I hadn't done anything for almost 10 months, no money, going broke. And I woke up the next morning, and a hairstylist that I'd never had a conversation with about religion, spirituality, faith, sent me a devotional from the Jesus Calling and a song called While You Were Sleeping from Casting Crowns, Christian band. And again, I started crying again, and I thought, you know what? This is like, you asked for it, here it is. So just walk, and you don't know where you're going. You don't need anybody's help. You got him. Let's just go see what happens. 5 weeks later, my son and I's vehicles got repoed. Both my houses were in government programs because I didn't have any money. And I wasn't able to get the stipend because the administration that was in office, every time I put, are you a U.S. citizen? I would click no. I would get an email back in 30 seconds. It was like a default. If you click no, you get no money, right? So I was just in hell. And I just kept holding on to something, and I just started to understand how to love myself with the same unconditional love that I feel from the spirit side and the unconditional forgiveness that I felt. And I really, really drove that into my heart and my soul. And that component has changed my life. It's changed who I am. It's changed how I treat people. It's changed how I treat myself. I look at myself today and I try and have a relationship with myself every different aspect. How is your relationship with you and your time, Reed? How's your relationship with you and your drinking, Reed? How is your relationship with you and your children? Like, where is your relationships at? Because my whole life I've been this relationship guy.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, man, we love Reed and da-da-da-da. But I didn't have that for myself. I didn't have good relations with myself. And so that's what I work on today. I live an extremely gratitude-filled life. We have a group that we do every other Wednesday, and I haven't been on for a bit. I need to get back on with a bunch of former pro hockey tough guys. For the most part, there's pro hockey. Anybody's welcome on it, and we just call it a place to go with your problems. And those guys were instrumental in helping my mindset. And I know that I've helped them in their mindsets as well, because the peace and the grace that I feel today is, overcoming what I overcame and understanding just to let it all go. Like I'm surrendered to whatever's out in front of me. You know, people talk about perfection. What is perfection? And then you see all the stuff on TV with perfect models, cars, life, big houses, lots of money. And it's not perfect. You know, for perfect has become for me, being able to surrender yourself to whatever God has out in front of you, knowing that it's for your good. And taking it and understanding it and learning the lessons and just enjoying the ride. We're not here that long. I wake up every single morning and I thank God to have breath in my lungs. And I tell him I want him to put me where he needs me, not where I want to be. And I just want to be his hands and feet. And I want to go show this world that you can love more than you can hate. And I just want to try one person at a time. And it's not a religious thing. It's a relationship thing for me. And that portion of my life over the last 5 years is trumps it all, because I've overcome the ultimate thing, which is our evil in our minds, right? There's only two things I know for sure in this world, good and evil, and they both reside in all of us. And that's when you come to fruition with that and you truly understand that, then you're like, well, which one wins? The one you feed.
Yeah.
You're going to talk crap on yourself all the time, and you're going to self-doubt and self-hate and look in a mirror and look at all the parts of your body that you don't like, or you're going to deflect on other people and do all those kinds of things. Well, you might as well go hang out with the devil, right? Because that's what he wants. He wants your mind to crap. He wants your mind filth, right? Over on this other side is love, and it's peace, and it's grace, and it's kindness, and it's forgiveness, right? Truly understanding how to forgive yourself makes it so much easier to forgive everybody for everything. Really? Like, come on, let's not be hard on ourselves. And so the journey of my afterlife hockey and understanding how to heal, you know, how to dismantle respectfully that alter ego that I built up.
Yeah.
And now he's just dormant and he just hangs out and he knows he's not allowed to come out anymore. And how I got there is, I'm just grateful and I'm blessed. And back to the hockey stuff that I do, that we did get on a Zoom call every other Wednesday night. This guy came and he got a master's degree in gratitude from Oxford University in Europe. I'm like, I didn't know there was such a thing. And it was really a time in my life that I needed this understanding. It was about 2.5 years ago. And that was really like my relationship with Jesus and my spiritual growth was going well, but understanding how to combine those things with gratitude was really something special for me, because whenever I was getting into that mode in my mind to go negative or to go evil on myself, he would say, stop and just think of 3 things you're grateful for. And he's like, don't make it your kids every day. Like, go find some things that you're grateful for. And what happens is you start to change your mindset on what you see, right? I tell people all the time, I see more green lights today than I see red. Is there really more green lights than red?
No.
Probably not. It's just where my mindset is. It's where I want to be, right? And so for me, that's the most important part, is how do you be the best you? Figure that out and learn how to love, learn how to forgive, and learn how to and learn how to commit to that. And it's really hard. But it's a simplistic mindset. But it's hard to do that every day, because we live in a world of down. Everything's down. Everything's sad. Like, everyone's fighting. Everyone's the right and the left and the red and the blue are all against each other, and nobody's this and nobody's that. And I'm just done with it all. You guys can have it. I'm going to go hang out over here in Happy Land, and I'm going to go try and make the world a little bit better one day at a time. And whether I do that or not, I hope I do. So, but the healing that's happened inside of me gratitude. Like if we all started to learn how to have a little bit more gratitude in our world, it'd be it's amazing. And it's funny because I find myself gravitating to people like that as well. You know what I mean? You're not a whole lot different in how you treat and how you hold yourself. And just a couple conversations that you and I've had over the last month, like I feel that energy. I'm drawn to that energy. I want to do things. I want to be here with you today and talk about my life and where I'm at and what I'm doing, because I know that people are looking for a success story. Yep. They're looking to find out that, hey, is it possible for me to feel like that too? That's all I want to do. Yeah. I don't have a church pew to sell you. Mm-hmm. I don't even go to church. Like it's not a big deal. And nothing against church, love congregation, get after it, do your thing. But Jesus is not a religion to me. He's a way of life. And I really try and make sure that I live that way of life. I fail at it every day to call myself names all the time, but I don't live in it as long as I did. Like depression used to be a 3-week thing for me. Now it's a 3-minute thing. That's huge.
Massive. Wow.
That was a lot.
No, this is a great episode. I mean, I like so many things that like I know the audience will take away, but I'm just sitting here and even some of the conversations we had before, I'm like, man, every single time I talk to you, I get a new perspective on maybe just a little thing. I got a lot of new perspectives on kind of how all this stuff ties together. So I really appreciate you for coming in here.
Oh man, my pleasure.
Looking forward to hanging out even more and getting to know you even more. Where can people stay connected with you online, learn more about your company, all that good stuff?
Yep. So that's part of what I'm working on right now. I'm bringing somebody on to kind of help me with my website. My website's not bad. You can go to it, reedlow34.com. Or just Google Reedlow. My website will come up. There's, it hasn't been, it needs a facelift. We're working on it. Yeah. One day at a time. Yeah. But you can get my email out of there, or you can go on to any of my platforms on social media. I'm on Instagram, Reedlow34 on Facebook, or just my Reedlow personal page. I'm checking that all the time. But yeah, email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. Reed@reedlow34events.com. And if you have an event, if you are fundraising, if it's a monster charity, I work with Cardinal Glennon. I'm working with a family that their son just beat cancer, and they never really did a fund and eat or anything. And last 3 years has really been hard on them. And so we're pooling their family and their friends together, and we're going to go have an auction, and we're going to have a little party. And so I'm helping them. And then, I've got another family one this week, get into February. I do school auctions. Like, I don't know. I tell everybody like, yeah, I'm an auctioneer, but I'm more of an entertainer than I am an auctioneer. So I like to get up there. I like to have fun. I think a lot of people think it's cool. Like, I love people. And, I do have in St. Louis, I have that hockey background. So people think that that's cool. If they want to talk hockey, let's talk hockey. If they don't want to talk hockey, let's talk about something else. I got a plethora of things I like to talk about. I love all sports. I'm a huge football fan. I'm starting to get into college football a little bit more. I can't wait for 16 teams. So yeah, man, I do public speaking engagements. If you ever need somebody to come and just talk about life or do this, if you've got an association or whatever that is, I just love people, love helping people. That's it.
Love it. Well, this was awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you. And thank you so much for either listening or watching to today's podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment, share this stuff on social media. Review the podcast as well, so then that way we can get this information out to more people. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We'll see you next week. And remember, authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.